Hello everyone, my name is Alex Witt and I'm just doing a quick recording just to see how this works, just to give it a go. I've got something written up here in regards to my astral projection experiences and this is my first one. So my first experience was in Kiama, a small tourist beachy area, and at that time I was with my friend Vav, who was doing a sabotage clearing for me, or with me, or however you want to word that. And whenever I spent time with Vav, I could guarantee that something out of the ordinary was going to happen. There would be flashes of images in my mind's eye, random sounds going off in the corners of the room, and footsteps outside with nobody around and all that sort of stuff. The images with my eyes closed, I'd see faces enveloped with light and all that sort of stuff, and going in a wave-like pattern, just boom, 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 you know. And I'll be able to see them in detail as well, which is pretty cool. The light helped out with that a lot, so I could recognize one from another, you know what I mean? And this particular session was more intense than the others from the very beginning. As we walked up the stairs, through the back and into the specific healing room we had designated for us, I was getting flashes of a fluffy-faced bipedal male, and I kept hearing Pan. At that time, I didn't really know much of who Pan was, or all that sort of stuff, him being a forest god and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, I didn't really have any idea of what was going on as well, so I just kind of went with it. I didn't really resist so much as I did in the past. So, yeah. Also, as I went to close the door, I saw his face pop out from around the edge of the door with a big grin on his face. So I laughed and locked the door, naturally. I mean, it's just a reaction, pretty much. And by now, Vav was aware that I saw, heard, and felt, so there was no questions asked there. So I'm honestly quite grateful for that. Vav has been a legend the whole way through. And when I went down on the massage table, face up, we went through the procedure of going through concepts, attachments, and all the magic associated, with it. And as we were clearing the negative stuff at the beginning, I started to feel myself expand to a ridiculous degree. So I had my eyes closed, and I just felt massive. Like, it felt like my entire body was bigger than the entire town, And it's a pretty decent sized town. So then after that sensation, it calmed down for a bit. So then I started to stare at the ceiling, you know, without realizing that my eyes were shut at the time. So, yeah. Although, as I did realize what was going on, I had a bit of a shock and excitement at the same time, without realizing how I got there or how to control it. So I naturally snapped that aspect of vision off and just returned to normal. Just because I had no idea how I got there, why I was there, or what was going on. So I just, straight back, straight back. And as these experiences were happening, I was expressing them to Vav, and he guided me through staying with my body and taking note of the process of the events. So he was paying attention, definitely, but he wasn't trying to stop me or stop the experiences from happening, which is pretty awesome of him. And all whilst he continued with clearing me of entities and all sorts of self-imposed sabotages, sabotage clearing, that sort of thing. And what started next was the first time I had consciously viewed reality from another viewpoint other than my own eyes. I was aware that I was still lying on the massage table in the middle of the other room, in the middle of the room, although I was now viewing that room from the ceiling corner opposite from the door. First, I was fixated on looking at myself, naturally. Why wouldn't you? Like, you get the opportunity to see yourself in a third person. Like, you're gonna take it. And, yeah, so I looked at myself and I was watching Vav talk to my body, and yet I I kind of lost interest after a little bit, because, well, I say a little bit, like a couple seconds, like, it didn't take me long. And, yeah, so naturally I looked around the rest of the room, and I saw that there were 3 other beings standing there. Now, they were all at different heights, so I knew they were all different sort of things, whatever they were. And I was only able to actually perceive, like, full details of one of the people there, and he was kind of a short bloke, and I don't really know how to describe him, because then I think back, I've got a different image of what I saw, and I know this for certain, so I can't quite remember what I saw, but I do remember that the other 2 were vague outlines, so like they weren't in full detail, but I could see the outline of what they were. The first guy was what I saw as I was walking up to the room. Pan. Okay, alright. It's a good thing I wrote that down. This was convenient for me to recognize one of them, although I still felt uneasy initially. The group then waved at me, and I felt at peace. So that's good. I waved back naturally. Well, I didn't think I had hands at the time, but I don't know. But I felt better. After their wave, I snapped back into my body, and after a moment, I felt I had to express what I'd just witnessed to Vav. He was confident with himself and with me, so I was at ease truly in regards to the experience. So I wasn't panicking, I didn't have any fear within me, I didn't have, like, flushes of shock or whatever, or anything like that, so I was pretty comfortable in that regards. And, yeah. So Vav then continued with the clearing statements and energy work. And as we drew to a close with the session, I had to read some statements aloud. So I opened my eyes to read the paper, and as I looked upon the piece of paper to read the familiar English language, you know, what you would expect from the notes that you were just looking at beforehand, yeah, it'd be English, I saw something completely different. It was, I'm not even sure how to describe it, I'll just read. What was on the paper to me was initially squiggles, lines, circles, and other off-worldly symbols. So it was like seeing like almost like a Japanese sort of set of lines that were going in different directions. I don't know, I didn't express that well, but it was very odd, very different. I'd never seen any language like it before. Like it felt like a really old language. So I saw that before I saw the next part. Yeah, and then the symbols gradually shape themselves into like a Spanishy sort of Latin-looking language, like a bit of a European sort of thing, but not English. And eventually it turned into English and I was able to read it. But the amount of time that this took, I would say, is about 15 seconds overall, because I was just like, coming back to it, coming back to reality, or whatever you want to say. And, yeah, I was personally astounded, and Vav hadn't realized what I was experiencing, since he couldn't see the paper from my perspective. He was only himself, So he could see the words clearly in English until, and he didn't realize I was going through this until I actually expressed it to him, which was like a couple seconds afterwards, because it took me a little while to take it in full, because it was pretty intense. But I'm glad it did happen. So yeah, after that, we kind of just finished up and just let the session be as it was. And with that, that's my first experience of having an outer body experience, really. And that's when I first really came across it. And that was my first experience with feeling that expansion as well. So there's a lot involved with all this sort of thing, like, it was a lot bigger than I thought it was. I'm glad that I kept going with it though, because there's a lot more. But anyways, Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy whatever.